Very excited to have this conversation. Let's get right into horses that we now know the qualifiers. We know who's going, and what's the field look like? Tell us, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think we can't talk about Olympics, especially these Olympics, without talking about the Swedish team. The Swedes currently hold Olympic team gold, world team gold, and European team gold. And they've picked basically the same team that have won those team golds for the Paris Olympics now. It's very hard to kind of not lead with them. I think they will enter Paris as favorites. If they, of course, have King Edward, who is, the highest rated horse that we've ever seen on rating, and, has been winning left, right, and center. But he's very well supported with Malin Bayer-Johnson and H&M Indiana, who is also on the hurling team at the World Championships and on the Tokyo team for the Olympics. And then they have Peter Fredriksson, who, was also on the Olympic team, but not on the same horse, actually on Catch Me Not, who is 18 years old, which is an incredible story as well, so much experience. But that's such a solid, well-experienced team. And every other team, I think, will be trying to beat them. And we could go on about the Swedes for so long, but there's other teams kind of emerging who perhaps, this year have shown better form or have shown more, because I think the Swedes didn't really have to show as much because they already had, so much experience in previous years. They didn't have to do that much this year to prove themselves. Their team was basically, I believe, set before, months and months ago, because they have such strong combinations. But there was other ones, say, like in Ireland, had to prove themselves a little bit more. And, form-wise, I think, like Germany, or countries that had, so much depth, like Germany, Ireland, maybe Belgium, they really had to go and pick and choose 3 combinations from how they did this year.
I think it's funny you say that, actually, because I think Sweden, like you said, was set. But on the other hand, I actually think that Malin's recent form has not been so strong. And I was curious if they were going to go with her just because of experience, or if in the end they were going to maybe go with CC because he's been jumping so well. And although she hasn't jumped so much, when she did jump, it was super strong. Nella's had some really good rounds. So I'm curious. I think Sweden on paper seems really strong in their track record, but I actually personally think that Germany is looking much stronger currently now than even Sweden. So obviously you can't count Sweden out, but I think Germany looks even stronger coming in. But maybe that's just personally, but watching current form, I think Sweden's not as strong as everyone thinks.
I think, the interesting thing about the sport generally is that you're going to be right, whichever way you say. There's the truth is that Sweden as a team win chance going into this, it's still going to be sub 20%, which means that when and if Sweden lose, it's 80% likely to happen. And it's very easy for us, I think, after Paris then to pull that apart and say, don't forget, I don't disagree with the form comment, but actually say Indiana has 160 form this year is still pretty high, in terms of the amount of clears they've jumped and the amount they've jumped. It's still a pretty good 155 and 160 record.
But I feel like it was better in the early part of the year, like January, February, March, than it has been in the last 2 months.
I think the one for me, the only one for me is they had a rail. I think they're one of the only people that had a rail in the first round at Rotterdam. There was not many rails in the first round at Rotterdam, and they had one. I would also say on Malin, part of the all-star team, but it was actually Marken Cosmopolitan, Jens Fredriksson, that really filled in for Malin in a way that was maybe a little bit unexpected as a 4th person in hurling, where Jens became a very important counting score and Malin wasn't. Again, of course, that format is different now when we go to Paris and we're counting 3 scores from 3. But I think we have a tendency, whether it's the Swedish team or whether it's Indiana and Malin, we all have a tendency to try and search out the story, me included. And you try to find a way in to make this sport and a contest and an angle. The truth is, Malin is a supremely experienced rider. That horse, even on recent form, they're still right up there in the top 10 in the world in terms of ratings, and probably the top 20 in the world, even this year and even now in terms of form.
I mean, it's my favorite
So
horse. If I had to pick a horse, it would be my favorite horse. So
yeah, so
I'm a fan. I love her. I think their partnership is incredible. But
I mean,
I
you're
don't
right.
know.
So
I just
you're
have
trying to
this
find
feeling, and that's the question. Is it the numbers? Is it a feeling? Is it not backed up really by the numbers? It sounds like it's not. So it's
well,
like
it
she's
is, and
really
it
strong.
is, and it's not. It is in that I still believe or it is going to be like 80% chance that they don't win because of how much jeopardy in a 3-from-3 competition there is. So if Sweden don't win, we're all going to be able to write the story backwards. The Germans are strong coming in, the Dutch are strong coming in, the Irish are strong coming in. We saw Mexico even put up a really strong result in Aachen in terms of Nations Cup. And when you go back to 3 counting scores from 3, it's going to favor even more jeopardy in terms of getting a team through. The French are at home. The French are going to build a big forward track, and the French are very likely to know more about that track than any other nation in a home Olympics. I mean, we can't say that out loud, but you guess that's probably the case, and that's what happens in
And
home
the French are
Olympics.
strong. I mean, just general horsepower and the
And
riders that are going, it's super strong.
absolutely. So our challenge is to try and not write the story backwards. So you've got to find as many angles as you can before, recognize that Sweden are an all-star team, but even all-stars, even King Edward, and when we get to the individuals this time after the team competition, but even the all-stars in our sport have a much bigger chance of losing than they do of winning.
Yeah.
And that makes you right both ways. So you don't want to try and come across too smart after the fact, which is I felt it was X or I felt it was Y. You're absolutely right on Germany. They have a really strong team. But like the US, like Ireland, Germans have to fight so hard to get on the team.
Yeah.
And at what point do they go over the top? Like, we don't know. All of these horses will be managing periodization so well. You've got to hope and expect that the riders, the teams around the riders, and the chefs are all going to understand that periodization. But like, look, you've jumped at the top level. You know what it feels like to arrive in form and then have to go pull back for 2 weeks and then hope that that form is still there when you press the button in a new country, getting off a flight. The US have had to fight each other to get here.
Absolutely.
The Irish have and the Germans have.
Yeah,
Whereas
I
I
mean,
would
I
expect,
think it's really an interesting thing because the US, because the trial period is so intense, they've had to jump so many rounds. If you look at like Carl and Caracol, I mean, they jumped 8 rounds in like a 2.5 week period. It was sort of crazy. And then he has to pause and then hope that he can peak again. It's almost like the US and these other teams where they have to fight to get on the team have to peak twice in a very short period of time, which as an athlete is virtually impossible to do. I mean, that's very, very hard to pause a peak and then try to maintain it or get it again, a couple weeks later. It's a huge flaw in the system with having to pick these teams and then having to announce them a month in advance.
it's the benefit and negative of a lot of strength and depth.
Yeah.
Like Charlotte mentioned, the Swedish team. The truth is, even with, I mean, Petronella and Odina are really emerging now. I would say Vilma and Cece, you mentioned, they're all emerging as the ones to come in and back them up. But they go with three. They go with three that you probably would have said are the three. If you could pick 3 riders, they're the 3 that would have got, that you would have expected them to be at the start of the year. You can probably say the same with Harry and Michael in the Netherlands. You can probably say the same. And then, to be honest, Willem Greve probably comes through from Setogenbosch.
Yeah.
And I know it's not Highway who's going, but even you pick all those double clears for Grand Dorado last year in the Nations Cup, it feels like they've been the 3. So you've had a pretty clear 3 for the Dutch, pretty clear 3 for the Swedes in terms of athletes. You can almost tell the other Harry and Ben over in the UK that they're going, and we're looking for a third to back up. So they don't go
Switzerland
to
also,
in the
right?
same way.
I mean, you had Stephen Martin who knew months and months ago that they were already going.
Exactly.
I mean, they were even told that they were going super early on. So, I mean, they were making their plans, not worrying about having to peak twice at all.
Exactly. So that's the challenge of strength and depth. Like they get pushed to the end. But what gets me excited outside of the numbers when you begin to think about what it's going to take to win this, two rails down across the team is kind of no good. It's kind of zeros and fours. Like
Yeah.
and I mean four as a team. Like I could see it going to four. I could see it going to a team jump off.
Yeah. Like last time in Tokyo.
I could see it being 1-0. Like the Swedes are able to go through perfectly. But what kills you here? What kills you here is a big bad round. Is a horse that goes or a rider that goes. Like and we've seen it multiple moments. Everyone will have one. We actually saw it. And it's hard because sport is tough at the top. It's hard because now when we go back to talking about what it takes to win the Olympics, this example comes up again and again. But pedal up at, she jumps with a rail in hand to win gold and they don't win a medal.
Yeah.
That's tough. And like part of you wants to not mention that and go and give her a hug. And part of it is top sport. And our mission is that if you want jumping to be top sport, you got to talk about it in the way that they talk about top sport. And that is if you want to celebrate the victories in the way that mainstream sports idolize and love their followings and they celebrate the wins and they discuss and dissect the losses.
Yeah.
This is what it feels like, and this is it now. All the pressure of having to sit around, zone out. This is what Super Bowl is like.
Yeah.
So if we want to talk about why horse sports should be able to challenge, and I don't mean at the amateur levels, because I think it's very important that we protect people, particularly young people, from that pressure. But you know what? Football do that, and like sports in Ireland do that, where even up to a certain level, they don't even keep scoring games actually in Ireland at the moment, up to a certain level, up to maybe when kids are teenagers. It wasn't the case when I was young, but now there's much more understanding of like the effect and pressure that like winning and losing can have, both positively and negatively.
Yeah.
But you can't have more than one really as a team. I think two is not going to be any good. So you're looking for perfect rounds. Now bring yourself back to the Irish team in terms of what they've delivered this year. Bring yourself back to the McLean Ward Illick's mentality. Go to look at Leonie J's 160 record. Austria, maybe less from a team point of view and more from an individual point of view when you talk about Electric Blue Peace. I'm going to leave that to one side for the moment. But Dynamix and Leonie for the Swiss. All three of the Irish boys. Daniel Coyle with Legacy is 6 from 8 at 160. Morris with Keen O'Connor is 6 from 7 at 160. James Cancrew, and by the way, that's only a time penalty that stops it being it's actually 7 from 7 jumping clear, which is more important, I guess, from a team point of view. And it's 6 from 7 for James Cancrews, and those rails are Wellington very early in the year. It's like the last 6 are all clear.
Yeah.
They're in form, and I also think they probably have the mentality to do what McLean Ward and Illick's do, which is that they actually very nearly won the whole thing at Aachen by just staying with jumping clears.
Yeah.
And even in the jump off, I think he just valued the clear over the speed. I know he was first, but I actually think that he went. I think the Olympics was what was in his mind as he went into the Aachen jump off. And I know that maybe that sounds silly, and maybe I'm wrong on that, because once you get into an Aachen jump off, you're in an Aachen jump off and you got to go in. But the way he rides his jump off round, and I know he's first, is different to what Martin Fuchs did when he turned back, where Fuchs, I think, went to win. And Vogel, I think, is a whole separate thing to be discussed. But I think Team E to the last goes to win. When he's riding to the last that he has the McLean time. He's down on time every bit up to the last, and Fuchs has the same idea when he hits that like quick roll back and he has to go faster. Whereas I think if you go to top mentality, we can't have more than one down to win this team. You're going for rider mentality and you're going for horses in form. And I think that brings you back to Ireland. I actually think they've got the perfect match of both. I think they can stay so cool and calm based on what they've done this year. and the experience. They're all big championship riders.
I think mentally they're in the strongest, horse-wise, rider-wise, and like just mentally, and also the success coming off of winning in Aachen for the Nations Cup, which they hadn't done in I don't know how many years. Like, I think it really, they're in the strongest position maybe they've ever been going into an Olympics as a team.
That's fair. I mean, I don't think they're really going to challenge. What's interesting there is I don't think they're really going to challenge after the weekend.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they're individual horses, even though we're still talking about the same records. And that sounds a bit silly. Like, there's part of me which wants James Cruise to be
Maybe Shane. But I don't know. I mean, Daniel
not
Daniel's
fast,
one of the fastest riders in the world, in my opinion. So, I mean, he is one also that can, if he does pull it out, I mean, he is going to be one of the fastest if there's a jump off for a medal.
Yeah, double World Cup winner, multiple 160 winner. And I think maybe if they're not Irish, I'm thinking, there's definitely a focus here internally on the team element of what they can do. We've never won a team medal at the Olympics. We've never even won a team medal at the World Championships. And 19 different countries have won team medals at major championships, and Ireland aren't one. And that's a freak stat. Like, that's not normal. It's not real. It doesn't reflect where we've been. And I think for us in this country to finish that now and to go and take home a team medal feels so important. Feels like
especially with Michael Blake saying earlier in the year that last year there were like 36 senior Nations Cup riders. I mean, the depth that the Irish have, not even just looking at this particular team, if you compare to any of the other Nations Cup teams and countries fielding senior teams, I mean, Ireland has so many riders, so many good horses, so much support behind them at the moment. I mean, they're sort of unparalleled. If you really look at them as a whole, their chances should be really high.
I would say, Charlotte, you'll help me out here, but I would say the Irish have they've a great selection of riders. And I think we talk about why the Irish riders are so special and experienced and talented. And like the fact that a lot of them have grown up doing it all themselves, tacking up their own horses, riding in fields for American owners to come and try our horses. Like, we know how to do this. But I would say in terms of horsepower at the moment, it's Germany. I can't get away from what they have. They have
so much depth. I think if they were allowed to field 3 teams to the Olympics, they could.
Easy.
That's taking away, horse and rider injuries, etc. But like, I think we came up with 3 teams of 3 German riders that could easily go and win a team medal at the Olympic Games, because they have so much depth. They have so many good riders. Like, I did not envy that team selector at all, because I did not know where to start, or who to drop, and how do you choose. And like, even now, DSP Shakaria won the Grand Prix of Aachen. She's not even going. We're looking at form at 5-star 160 in 2024. Kendra Clarissa Brink up with Tabasco de Saxandra is at the top for the Germans. She's not going. They were going Jana Friederike Meyer Zimmermann with Messi van Trettershoff. She's not going. Like,
it's crazy.
It's incredible. And I think they have
be gentle going.
Also not going. I mean,
Sapano,
I mean, you could have sent Christian Kukuk on like 2 or 3 different horses. I mean, it's unbelievable what kind of like depth that they have. And not just depth in the sense of like, there's horses that can jump 160. Like, I feel like in the US, you're like, which horses can even jump 160? And then you deal with Germany, and you're talking about horses that are at the top of all of these lists for overall stats, because they're all jumping and winning at 160. It's crazy.
That's the thing. And we're seeing the Germans go to Paris with teams that don't even have Marcus Henning or Daniel Deuter, who are legends of the sport, and they're not even going. So it's actually mind-boggling, and it's almost a shame. Like, you'd love to see them actually take each other on in teams.
That would be the best
if
competition.
You could just have a German Olympic Games, and they could just like send out a couple of teams and get some young riders in there as well, and that would be a great team competition as well.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So if you can't feel that you've got Gerda and Leonie J, but actually Vancouver de Landlore, that horse that we're talking about, the Penelope had at the time, Vancouver de Landlore's unbelievable 160 record 2 years ago. Then they've a little bit of time out now, not 2 years. They've obviously been back a lot more in that time. Am I right, Charlotte? You always
It was last year. I think it was last year.
Last year was it they had the time out, and not that much, but I remember coming out of Gothenburg, they'd actually had a fairly shaky, maybe 2 years ago, not shaky, but just a mixed record. Then they had an unbelievable start last year. Then they had time out. Then you had a chance for Orly and Yannicka Sprunger to get in. Then they get back in. And now, because of a 3-from-3 format, their team medal rests on Vancouver de Landlore, probably. And I mean, I'm not saying that in a hard way, because sometimes this thing will surprise you. Indiana was the horse, not Mark and Cosmopolit, that had the rails for Sweden. So it's not going to necessarily follow the same way as you think. But if you can tell the story of Vancouver de Landlore and put that inside the P.S. Switzer, Martin Fuchs, Steve Gerda story, now you say, yeah, they've got a chance. And yeah, it's a chance that one of them will have a rail, but this is the chance. The chance is don't miss the Vancouver de Landlore round, because the other two are jumping so many 160s. They're Olympic champions. One's just had his first Aachen win. They've got stories. Pius is this unbelievable rider riding Vancouver de Landlore. And now you've got a Swiss story.
And it also, I mean, you think of Vancouver, that's the horse that like lost it at the last games and could win it, you know, with a different rider, different country. And now it's coming in again and has sort of a redemption shot.
If you want to talk about the Brits, okay, the challenge of having the two at the top, you've got Harry on a fitness race. I mean, if I'm honest, I think knowing Harry Charles and Peter Charles, there's no way that that's even a race. He's going to be there.
I think he's
yeah, he's probably riding again already, but the challenge that they had in selecting their horse, and then you've got Joe Stockdale, and I think, you know, you've also got the Olympic champion coming in, and talk about on-demand performance. Like Ben is another person that you would say is on-demand performance. Harry's like one of the big breakthrough riders, or, you know, young riders coming through.